All right, ladies and gentlemen, the digital transformation market in India is on its way to hitting the $710 billion mark by 2024. Artificial intelligence, cloud computing, blockchain and robotics are estimated to generate $1 trillion in economic value by 2025, up from the current $200 billion. And we are actually surpassing all estimation when it comes to an annual growth rate. Helping us, further understand how digital transformation will lead India in this decade, I invite the chairperson and senior MD, Accenture India, Ms. Rekha Menon, VP and MD, Adobe India, Ms. Pratibha Mohapatra, and the founder, Indiaspora, Mr. M.R. Rangaswamy on the panel to moderate the session. I request my co-anchor and senior editor, ET Now, Aisha Faridi, to take the center stage. Thank you.
Okay, so after that amazing session with TCS, we are here talking about what the Indian IT sector could look like in the future. And I must say, MR, that side seems heavier in terms of numbers.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah. Rekha, would you agree with that? Is TCS number one or is it Accenture?
We're not in competition like this. We're all helping the IT industry grow. So, but globally, Accenture is $50 billion, and we're saying that we will grow double digits. In fact, 22% plus is our estimate for this year. And in terms of numbers, I know numbers were quoted. We are about 700,000 people globally. That's and in India itself, we're about 300,000 people. So it's a large presence in India.
A huge round of applause. The Indian IT sector per se is way larger than the world's second largest company by market cap, that's Saudi Aramco. Pratibha, am I getting the numbers right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as we in Adobe are concerned, our motto is changing the world through digital experiences. And whatever is happening in the world right now, we are absolutely in the center of that. So all our great partners, TCS and Accenture, are working along with us to get this transformation on. Yes, and the numbers are on India's side right now.
But okay, let's backtrack a little bit. Because back in the day, Indian IT used to be call centers, BPOs. From there to the journey now with SaaS, fintechs, India being the IT cloud kitchen for the world, if I can call it that. Where have we reached and where are we set to reach in future? Pratibha.
Yeah, I don't think India is any more the hands and feet of IT. It is the brain of IT, right? I think that we all should be very, proud of. Our own example, 1/3 of our product innovation, product teams are in India. So they are the thinkers, they are the architects of all those wonderful Photoshop and illustrators that you see. So very proud that the shift to India is, the brain has shifted. Every other company, the services companies are also proving that. And that's another reason why you see in the last unicorn boom, lot of it were SaaS companies and IT companies, which wasn't happening. So all of these are clear indications that we are here.
Can I add to that?
Sure, sure.
So wearing my hat as the chair for NASSCOM, which represents all the technology industry, we have seen the shift happen quite some years ago. So it's a misnomer to say that we were a call center low-end industry. That shift has been happening. But in the last few years, it's been a dramatic pivoting, and whether it is, the numbers quoted are just phenomenal. The Indian IT industry is now $227 billion, growing at double digit, growing broadly across all sectors. And we've all seen the headline numbers of unicorns. But more important than that, I'm not taking away from that, which is a lot of tech innovation. There's a lot of innovative work being done out of India. We just look at the number of patents being filed out of India now. We need to be very proud of that fact.
Emma, I know you're in minority right now, but from your fisheye lens, considering that you spearhead Indiaspora, what is your view on how the Silicon Valley matches up with India, or India matches up with the Silicon Valley?
Yeah. I started again with NASSCOM about 12 years ago, with the NASSCOM Product Conclave. And when the first time we had it, there were 200 or 300 entrepreneurs. Fast forward 10 years, 2,500 entrepreneurs. So I know the train is moving in the right direction, and it's moving away from services in a sense. And that's good to see. But on the other hand, at the same time, I think the companies that have started in India that I've observed to date have been more like, let's bring an American model or Silicon Valley model to India and kind of make that model happen here. What we need to see is what are the breakthrough companies, what's going to happen in terms of, the next Google or Microsoft or whoever. What is that kind of company that's going to come out? It's yet to be seen.
Okay, you've given me a lot of talking points there, and she's already raising her hand. Yes,
sorry. I'm an Indian at heart. I agree and I disagree. So I agree that so far the major product innovations happened in the US. But let me just give you two very simple examples of local innovation which hasn't happened in the country that you live.
Sure.
If I just take a very simple one, vaccinations in India, right, developed cheaply using technology. And second, the fact that we could have digital certificates for our people. I believe the country you represent still does paper certificates,
Yes.
right? So that's innovation right out of here in India.
Okay, I would counter that by saying the US did mRNA vaccines.
I'm so glad there is that space between you guys, because I can see where this is headed, but yeah.
Okay, just one more example and then I'll shut up. Digital payments, right? India has leapfrogged on digital payments, where we have both government-run and private digital payments for everything now. And just the UPI transactions in the last 1 year were $1 trillion. That's huge.
Yeah,
But it's a different number base also, Rekha, that you're talking
Yeah,
about,
but
to
we're
be
talking
fair.
innovation out of
Yes.
India.
I think that's good because more people will start paying taxes in India if everything is digital.
That's true. Conceded.
But Pratibha, we were just hearing from Rajesh Gopinathan from TCS. We heard Infosys on the sidelines of the earnings as well the other day. We've all heard about newspaper headlines that so-and-so startup hires so-and-so from this IIM with this much a salary, pay packet, and these are the cars that are being given to them or the homes that are given to them. The one problem that the industry is grappling with is attrition. I mean, let's address that issue. Is there a solution to it really?
See, I see it as a revolving door, right?
Is
Yes.
there a demand-supply mismatch? Let's just put it very simply.
I don't think there's a demand-supply mismatch. It's just that it's becoming rosier as you go out from one door to the other to the other. So that's somewhere I guess we as IT fraternity can have some rules of the game. I think now the time is for that. Otherwise, people will continue to shift if the baselines keeps on shifting. I don't think there is a supply challenge, but definitely there is a quality of supply challenge. And that's where that entire concept of skill reskilling comes in. So, yeah, there is attrition, there is, it's a revolving door, it's not going to go on forever. Can we do something about it? I think collectively, yes, because the intellectual property of each company matters to it, and we are in the knowledge business. So what can we do to actually get a common building ground? At the same time, skill and reskill, and internally do better job at providing the purpose of the companies so that people can stick around more.
Amar, this is a phenomena which Silicon Valley also is grappling with,
absolutely.
right? It's not India alone. The great resignation, as they call it. What's the Silicon Valley doing to address it? Or is it just let them move door to door, at some point they will come back to us?
Well, I think this shows the power shifting to the employee now. I think that's what has happened. In the US during COVID, a lot of people worked from home. They don't want to come back to the office. Same thing has happened with women in the workforce. They were comfortable working from home. They don't want to go back to work because they can be with their kids. I think these are all real issues happening out there that are being surfaced.
And I guess, COVID just taught you that there are options. You can work from home.
Absolutely. There
Yeah.
was a company here in India I was visiting, an unnamed company. They did a survey with their employees. They had 6,000 employees. They said, how many of you want to come back to work? The answer was 4. So I'm telling you folks, all of you, Accenture and Adobe, better plan on letting people stay at
Yeah,
home.
the big American companies' employees also said exactly the same thing. You know, we read in the papers. Nobody of that company wants to come back. So I guess it's the employee has a bigger say today, and time to be sensitive, time to observe that, time to make those adjustments. But I guess it's a matter of a couple of years till it stabilizes. But that is a big side effect of the pandemic that has happened.
How do you address it, Rekha? Because I mean, this is a problem which is which the entire IT industry across the world is grappling with.
Yeah. So let me address the first point, which was on the attrition, which is really that with the absolute booming demand that we have, I mean, just the India numbers that I can speak to, we have 8 times more demand than available talent. And you're right, it's about the talent is available, but it's not ready to be hired. So the focus for all of us on a war footing has to be skilling. And it cannot be, each company doing on its own. It's a countrywide challenge that we have to skill. Otherwise, we're going to have jobs unfulfilled and potential unemployment. And therefore, it's a multi-sectoral approach that has to happen. It's not just individual. I mean, we are doing what we can. So Accenture, we've focused a lot on training our own people because that stems attrition, because then they get opportunity to take new jobs and change. But also we are working with industry partners to make sure that we collaborate and skill outside in the ecosystem and working with the government. So NASSCOM, for example, we've set up something called Future Skills Platform, which has, along with the government, which has, last 1 year has 1 million registered folks taking courses in digital. So I'm saying that this is a war footing for India. It's not just for an individual organization. That we don't focus on skilling, we're going to lose the game. We have the opportunity to grab it.
Amar, with great resignation is also coming great migration. Some of our best minds don't want to work in India, but they want to go to Silicon Valley and work.
Yeah, so what's happened, and we've been noticing this because Indiaspora is a bridge between the US and India. Over the past few years, we've noticed so many SaaS companies who sell to the Western markets move the headquarters, CEOs moving to the US. And in fact, about 2 months ago or a month ago when COVID opened up again, the travel ban was gone. Literally in 1 week, there were 75 Indian SaaS CEOs in Silicon Valley visiting from India and wanting to move to the US. So that is definitely happening. In one sense. The second wave we've noticed, I was in Dubai. We'd taken a delegation in December to Dubai for the World Expo and to meet leaders. The whole crypto segment of India, we met them all there, and they all have golden visas. And so they're moving over there. So I think this is a troubling sign a little bit for India in that why are these companies and this talent moving away when things in India are pretty good? So that's something that the country needs to address.
How can it be addressed?
I'm not the Prime Minister, but yes, I can tell you, no, the way...
Don't worry, I'm not playing any rapid fire with you. But yeah.
No. So you're right. We've had movement outside, and there have been 2 reasons for it. One is to be closer to the customer, because a lot of these companies are serving customers outside of India, so it makes it easier. Some of it is to do with the way our taxes are set up, our tax structure, so it makes it easier for some of the startups to operate outside, which is why we've seen some of the startups move out, and we are working with the ministries to make it easier for them to continue being here. And having said that, in a way, it works both ways, because just as some of the diaspora, some of the talent moves out, we're also seeing a lot of in-migration of talent. And to the point that everything is virtual, we can now tap into the best of the brains anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be based out of India. I mean, if I just look at what we're doing, so if we, in our labs, for example, which is one of the 3 innovation labs globally, is here in India for us in Accenture, it's a cross-functional team across Palo Alto and France and India that works together. So you can tap into the best brains, and digital has enabled that. So we need to look at that as an opportunity that we can use, rather than a physical, where are they based out of?
Pratibha, the other thing also is, we talk about startups, but a lot of startups, like MR was saying, were Me Too's. You know, a lot of these models are businesses which have already been very, very successful in the United States or the other, Western countries of the world. They're replicating their model. And sure, it's becoming a success. But I want to understand from you, where do you think disruption and new disruption and innovation for the Indian IT sector could come in from?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't think all the startups that are here, those ideas were already there somewhere, because a lot of the startups here who are touching the billion plus population were startups for scale. And many of the startups in US and UK, China for that matter, China of course, again for scales, but the startups in US and all were pretty much centered around some tech boom and all. Here it's a lot of startups around consumer boom. That's why, our food techs, our health tech, our all the other kinds of stuff have happened because of the reach. And yes, demographic dividend, and now you have democratic dividend. So those are at play. So first, number one, our startups are not necessarily mirroring what others have done. A lot of newness has happened from this country. UPI is the best, the super best example of the world, right? Now, and for that matter, Infosys, TCS were startups few years back, let me tell you, right? So the IT boom was startups 40 years back. Why? I think America missed. America did a lot of stuff in the product side, but the services IT was startups of India. And even the startups of today are. Now, where is the next new disruption? So like I said, a lot of the technology disruptions and tech-enabled disruptions, like fintechs, health tech, are enabled by a new technology. And the new technology is really around the new stuff that we see around creative, and I keep on talking that, because with automation, a lot of the BAU stuff will just happen. The new stuff which is around creativity, what you see in AR, VR, what you see in the 3D. So that is where it's moving towards, and Indian companies can actually take the lead in emerging companies and startups in those new technology-enabled areas. So I think that's where the disruption will be. And of course, blockchain was not possibly that successful, but AR, VR, and now metaverse, all of that might be the real successful one. So it is, that's where my mind is at. And the Indian startups for scale will show the world like what UPI has done. And like I say, the digital India has moved, yes, because of policies and frameworks, but it has moved because of few things. One is very low cost availability of data. Those are the real things. That's why content, everybody is a creator. Everybody in the room is a creator. Who has a phone? That person is creating content.
Influencer.
Right now we are creating content. So the world of content is here, right? And that's because of cheap data.
Yeah.
Second, mobile in every pocket. Yeah. That's another India phenomenon. So the mobile has changed the world. Mobile technology, mobile first innovation will be the startups of India, which will go and serve rest of the world. America doesn't have too much of mobile first, yes, web and all. So that's a mobile first stuff which has happened. And then of course our people, but there, as Rekha said, it's a national agenda for skilling and reskilling. Everybody should sit up and look, right? 50% of our population, students coming out, not employable. 50% of our people in existing organizations will not be relevant. It's a big, big problem staring at us. I think that's where I would talk about what we should focus on.
Can I jump in?
Emma? Yeah.
I think where the next $1 trillion Indian startup can come, I think is going to be in what you pointed out, at scale. Whether it's payment, whether it's healthcare, those kinds of things, where we figure out how to take that to the rest of the world, right? It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be in the metaverse and stuff, because the US crazy people will always be good at that, okay? So just like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, those are the guys who are going to do that stuff. And they're at the forefront. I don't think India really is going to shine that much in the metaverse part, But I think taking things that are sold by the billions and trillions and taking it to all the other countries and monetizing it.
I'll just
might be
add
the
one
way.
more. I'll just add one
C.K.
more.
Prahlad long ago used to say, innovating for the bottom of the pyramid. And if we can do that, and we are doing that, we could take this outside. So I'm just agreeing with your point for once, that could be our sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because we can innovate for our people, whether it's edtech or agriculture or health, any one of those.
So,
and then
Rekha, let's narrow this down. Because, in India, like you said, everyone is an influencer. Everyone wants to become a businessman. Part of the attrition problem is also because everyone who's graduating today wants to start their own startup. If you had to give a startup idea to the audience sitting here, something doable, something without VC funding, I'm talking about very small scale, which is the next go-to idea that you think is going to crack it for them? Sorry, I'm putting you in the spotlight here.
No, but I can give you the broad areas which we just spoke about, which would be, since we just said skilling, I'm saying just do the startup, look at where the problem is. Which is a problem that you can solve that nobody else is solving right now? Or can you do the same problem in a different way? So I would say EdTech, definitely. Education technology, skilling technology. I would say healthcare, because we are so uncovered in healthcare as our general population. If you can provide any unique solution in healthcare, right? And I would just be a little provocative and say metaverse, only because he said no metaverse. Accenture has put its metaverse team in India. Right? So, and with our Bollywood, and with our Bollywood, etc., and our entertainment, why can't we innovate there? Absolutely we can. So that's just it's not a problem that is going to solve our social issues, but look at what our social issues are, and let's focus there.
Who says that metaverse? I was chatting with Randy Zuckerberg just yesterday about exactly what metaverse is all about. And who says that metaverse has to be only about gaming? It could be about edtech, it could be about content, it could be about any other.
I agree.
You rest your case at that. Pratibha, you wanted to add something.
No, I think all this metaverse is what, to put it simply, we will do certain things which we're doing physically in a virtual world. So what are those certain things and which can be done in a virtual world? Pick that idea, right? For example, the talk show, or there was a singer on a metaverse. So I think those can be easily done. So if somebody is thinking of ideas, think of those things which are possible to be done on a virtual world. Those will move to metaverse. There will be certain things which will still not be possible to be done in the real world. You cannot touch a patient and do the care, right? There will be certain, areas of work which still needs that touch and feel, but there are a lot of. So those are the ideas which can really move. That's why the meetings and all were the first ones to move. And that really, my other question is, if things can move to metaverse, then can we really live without them? Like the meetings, the number of meetings that people do, can it really reduce? So I think those are the kind of things that can happen. And the scale part is what we are really good at, and that's what we should grab.
Amma, you said something very interesting, that the new innovation for Indian startups and Indian IT is going to come in if they, based out of India, can make businesses which are viable to countries like all over Africa, Bangladesh, what have you. Why that? Why not make in India and sell in India?
Yeah, I think the first should be sell in India, but I think some of these other markets are crying need for these products. And I think the company that's going to become the next $1 trillion Indian startup is going to be the one that does it in volume and scale and low cost. That's why I said you need maybe 2 billion users instead of 1 billion users, So I think you need to really look at all these other countries, because we can export a lot of the good that's happened in India to so many countries. So I think it's better to have that global footprint. And maybe one of these days, even the US will adopt some of these things at very low prices.
Rekha, when you talk about disruption, when you talk about giants getting created, Indian IT has made its space, yes. But Indian IT is not talked about in the same vein, and it's not an apple-to-apple comparison. I'm already caveating it here. Like a Facebook, like an Apple or a Google. Why is that? We have the brightest minds, we have the best resources, but we're still not a product IT company?
So you
Or a
answered the
nation.
question. You actually answered the question because Indian IT has largely seen success and has excelled on the basis of being a services company, which means that we've actually used our talent to provide the best services. While the companies you mentioned are all product companies, which then, and by the way, these are the successful ones. Product failure rates are high.
Of course.
9 out of 10 product companies fail. And therefore, all of us use it. That's a huge difference. And I think there are, and I'm conjecturing, there are a couple of reasons for that. One, I would like to think that it is what used to be our educational system, which emphasized rote learning rather than anything else. So we churned out millions of excellent engineers, but not creative talent who could think out of the box and build a product. That is changing now. We're beginning to see it change, but it's still early days. So we have a long way to go with that. Second, just sheer volume of talent available allowed us to tap into the need
Of the hour back
at
then.
that time,
Yeah.
right? And then grow. But if you see now what's happening, we're seeing a lot of small product companies which are starting to grow and are hitting large numbers, but are not there yet. So it's a journey.
Pratibha, what could be the shape and size of Indian IT 5 years from now? What are we going to be staring at?
This one, of course, Rekha as the NASSCOM chair has the best number, but yeah, I think the...
I'm coming to her, don't worry, I'm not going to spare her on that.
Yeah, I think the $1 trillion, out of the $5 trillion, $1 trillion coming from IT is a very, very viable deal, right? Out of that, 300-400 will come from IT services. The rest will come from the products and other related one. I think that's very much possible, I see in the 2025 horizon.
Rekha, the $5 trillion economy dream, can 1 trillion easily come for Indian IT, and can we even beat that? Why stop at 1 trillion?
That's the goal. So yes, we are saying we can meet the $1 trillion economy. 1 trillion digital
Contribution.
Given some few things have to be put in place, because without that, it can remain a pipe dream. Right, and we're working with the government on that. There are certain policies, for example, that have to be put in place, whether it's data security, whether it's privacy laws that we need to have in India so that, we can do more work out of India. The second big one, I'm sorry to sound like a stuck record, but it is going to have to be skilling. Can we get enough talent to build that? So, yes, highly doable.
Emma?
Yeah, I think this is where the diaspora can help.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of us in Silicon Valley and other parts of the world that are used to doing this kind of stuff. So I think I see for good collaboration as one of the success factors if India indeed is to hit that $1 trillion contribution. I think we need to have, for example, one layer is missing or seems to be missing in Indian companies based here is the product management level. There are lots and lots and lots of talent in the Indian diaspora at the middle level of management. I think here maybe we have great founders and great coders, but I think the middle part of the stack is where I think if you manage to get people to come back, or like you said, in the virtual world, you can have an office. It would be great to see if Indian companies set up offices in Silicon Valley to tap into the talent as opposed to forcing them to move back or moving the headquarters to Silicon Valley. I think that is a model that needs to be examined is why can't the next 100 startups actually open a development office in the US? Something worth
Does
thinking.
that bridge really, is that bridge really needed? Do Indian companies have to sort of tap on to Silicon Valley to become bigger?
Yes and no. So, now it's no longer about an organization working in its own silo and growing, saying you have to collaborate. Ecosystem partnership, like Adobe and Accenture, we partner all the time. You have to partner within the ecosystem and outside of it. And because it's all digital, virtual is possible. So we're going to have to do that if you're going to tap into the best that's available. So why do we have to think that it has to be only here and only one organization doing it? If we just change our thinking a little bit and say it's a global collaboration, absolutely.
So Pratibha, maybe next time we're going to meet in the metaverse and have this conversation.
You better create your avatar. I've done mine.
I'm already working on it after meeting Randy yesterday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think those are very much, but I go back to Rekha's point that all that dream of trillion and all, we have some fundamental issues. Today, yes, on NASSCOM, we have all these organizations. We have put in our skills. We have a lot of creativity skills available for the students and teachers to go and take. But the consumption, how do we force students? How do we get them to? So those are the core issues. Those are the grassroots issues, right? Teaching as a profession has to evolve. People need to feel proud of being teachers, and then they give it to the students. And the teachers themselves has to evolve to take up digital skills, creativity skills, skills of the future. Everybody cannot be an engineer and create those products. Those product is a design principle. It is not coding. So that shift is fundamental to our country right now. And that is why our education policy, the national education policy, is laying a lot of stress on the softer skills. That's something, again, very, very fundamental. What are we doing about it? It's becoming part of curriculum now. Earlier you had physics, science, chemistry, social studies, XYZ. Now creativity, critical thinking, all of that is important. So, yes, Silicon Valley and Indus Valley, as we call it now, India. So those collaborations are great, but bottom of the pyramid, we as IT companies are providing a lot of collective technology, digital enablement, but we need that absorption to happen.
So the list has gone beyond doctors, engineers from India?
Absolutely. I think the secret talent we haven't talked about here, I'm surprised, with 3 ladies on this panel, is I think to get to the $1 trillion economy or contribution, we need to have more women in IT.
Of course.
Just let me give you the numbers. So I agree with you. But IT industry has been a shining example, actually, of employing women. So Accenture in India, we have 47% of our population is women, top down.
And the Times Network as well.
Right. And IT industry overall, which employs about 50 lakh people in India, 36% is women. So it's a good number. And yes, but I agree. We have to tap into the rest of the population.
Okay, ladies, MR, all of you, thank you so much. I think the vision is looking extremely bright for that $5 trillion economy goal put forth by the Prime Minister. $1 trillion is what our experts believe is going to come in from IT. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and Mr. Rangaswamy, for that riveting conversation.